Scammers. They've always been around. They come in many shapes and forms. They have an innate habit of finding creative ways to snatch you out of your hard-earned money. From gracious call centers offering to remove malicious viruses off of your grandma's computer, pickpockets pinching your phone as you're enchanted watching a gold-plated, levitating dude on a walking street, to 16-year-olds selling you courses on how to achieve financial freedom before puberty. Every day, scammers get away with their crimes in front of our very eyes. Some make a quick buck here and there. Others make millions of dollars. But to really strike riches as a scammer, you need a powerful setup. A setup that is scalable. A setup that is enticing to a lot of people. Well, there's one particular setup that works like a charm. What if you could convince someone to invest money with the promise of high returns? All they have to do is entrust you with their money and they get their initial investment back plus a significant profit, just by doing nothing. You've put together the framework of an offer they can't refuse. While the first person is excitedly anticipating their payout, you find another person and convince them to do the exact same thing. They trust you and invest. I mean, who says no to free money, right? You use the second person's money to pay back the first person, and there's even a little profit for yourself. Voila, proof of concept. Before person 2 comes knocking on your door, claiming their payout, you've obviously already found the next person whose funds can be used to keep previous customers happy. With a track record of happy customers, the idea may even start to sell itself. People may even come flocking to participate in your magical investment opportunity. This magical money printing concept has a name. It's known as a Ponzi scheme. To put it short, a Ponzi scheme is a technique in which you use new investors to pay off earlier investors. You can package a Ponzi in various compelling ways, and when it works, it really works. But every single Ponzi scam artist stands on the shoulders of a very particular man. A man whose legacy will forever be remembered. A man who would leave a lasting scar in the history of mankind. A man who paved the way for future swindlers in pursuit of wealth. A man who gave name to the world's most powerful scam. A man who went by the name of Charles Ponzi. The story of Charles Ponzi is incredible. It is a story of risking it all for ambitious dreams, money-hungry sociopaths, perseverance through unthinkable struggles, greed, manipulation, and even a bit of love. In the center of it all is a man who would do anything to make his family proud. But let's go back to where it all started. Charles Ponzi was born in Lugo, Italy, in 1882 to a poor family with a proud legacy. See, the Ponzis used to be a wealthy and noble family, but had, due to their poor spending habits, gone broke over time. Although poor, Charles's relatives scraped together every penny they had and broke the piggy bank to send the family's beacon of hope to university. Ponzi enrolled in Sapienza University in Rome, a posh university of rich kids and spoiled young chads looking to make a name for themselves. Ponzi, however, wasn't really suited for the academic side of things, so instead of attending class, he mostly hung out at expensive restaurants and operas, doing his absolute best to keep up with and impress his new rich comrades. After 4 years, Ponzi finished university. Unfortunately, without a degree nor a single penny in his pocket, he returned to his childhood city, 22 years old with a bit of an explanation problem. See, all the money his parents had saved had gone down the drain. Lock, stock, and barrel was spent on Italian designer clothes, splurged on nights out at dance saloons, and gambled away at extravagant Roman cafes. Needless to say, his family was very disappointed, but they couldn't give up on him as he was their only hope to bring back respect to the Ponzi family name. So, he got an idea. In the late 19th century, under the modern breakthrough, it was popular for struggling Europeans to migrate to the huge American cities that were in rapid development, and opportunities to make money were vast. Ponzi himself had started hearing stories of Italians who had migrated to the US to find fame and fortune, eventually making a life for themselves. Some of them even returned to Italy as wealthy individuals. A beggar doesn't get to choose. So, Ponzi knew the next stop in his life journey was America, the land of the brave. And the adventure didn't sound too bad either. He pitched the idea to his family, who indeed saw the logic. The family, once again, managed to save up what amounted to around $200, and so he was sent off in a presentable new suit on a steamship across the Atlantic Ocean. On board, Ponzi found himself a group of new friends who, just like him, loved playing cards and gambling. Unfortunately, he arrived on November the 15th, 1903, at Boston Harbor, as poor as a church rat with a mere $2.50. The rest? He had lost gambling on the ship. So, with no money for a taxi, he wandered towards the city center on the muddy dirt tracks of his new hometown, messing up his oldie suit. Now, he really needed to find a way to make money. Luckily, Ponzi quickly picked up English and went on to work various strange jobs over the coming years. He started working as a dishwasher in a restaurant, sleeping on the kitchen floor. He managed to work his way up to become a waiter, but was eventually fired for theft and shortchanging customers. Among Ponzi's occupations were clerk, nurse, insurance salesman, sign painter, busboy, and even sewing machine repairman. He never lasted in one position for long because he always got in trouble for stealing or trying to cheat customers. But everywhere he went, one thing was certain. He would scribble down ideas for businesses and dream about the fame and fortune he knew awaited him. When he told people about his ideas and ambitions, they would laugh and mock him, saying he would amount to nothing. One day, dead broke as he was, Ponzi found himself sneaking into a vacant warehouse office, noticing a checkbook. He wrote himself a cheeky little check of $423, carefully forged the director's signature, and waltzed delightedly towards the bank. However, it didn't take long for the police to find out, especially because Ponzi started having lavish expenditures just after the forged check was cashed. When the police confronted him, he simply held out his wrists and said, "I'm guilty." He served 3 years in prison for this episode. Instead of telling his family about his imprisonment, he wrote them a letter explaining he had found a job as a prison warden. When he was released, he immediately got back on the grind. He found a job at a mining facility. It was while working there he masterminded a business idea to make a utility company that would supply water and power to mining camps in the area. As he was just about ready to launch, he stumbled upon a newspaper article about a woman who had suffered severe burns in an accident which touched him deeply. Despite not knowing her at all, Ponzi volunteered to undergo 2 major operations, donating large amounts of skin from his back and legs. The healing process was extremely painful and would leave him with scars for the rest of his life. To make things even worse, he couldn't launch his utility business as he had to spend months recovering in a hospital bed. While stuck in the hospital, someone else stole his idea. That didn't knock Ponzi down. He kept his chin up and took the rough with the smooth. His endeavors continued, and he went on to start a small sea of businesses which all failed. But one day, the stars seemed to align, and everything was about to change, all because of one letter. C, he was always on the lookout for potential investors for his business ideas, and was actively pitching them by sending letters to prominent figures around the world. Most of them never replied, but one special day, he received a letter from Spain and saw something he'd never seen before. Inside of the envelope was something called an international reply coupon, and that's when he had an epiphany. To quickly explain, an international reply coupon is something the sender of a letter buys and puts inside the envelope. The receiver can then exchange the coupon for local postal stamps that covers the postage fee associated with sending a reply letter. What Ponzi saw was a so-called arbitrage opportunity, an opportunity where an item is cheaper on a particular market and can be sold on another market for a risk-free profit. In this case, many European currencies had plummeted after the First World War, so international reply coupons could simply be purchased for cheap in Europe and sold for more expensive in America. But reselling one European coupon would only give a few dollars profit, so he needed investors. He needed to buy international reply coupons in bulk. He needed to scale. So, Ponzi frantically started looking for investors. He gave all the big banks a visit and asked them to invest. And as per usual, he received a big fat no. But that didn't matter, because this time, he knew he was onto something. And this is where Ponzi's idea turned out even more brilliant-ish. See, why onboard boring corporate investors when you can simply get the people to invest with you? Power to the people. Plus, they're probably a little easier to convince. Ponzi had become a bit of a smooth operator. His past experiences had given him brilliant social skills, and he was a well-liked and interesting character in his social circles. He was known to be good with people, charming and fluently well-spoken in multiple languages. He even managed to marry himself a beautiful wife, whom he promised a life of prosperity. Ponzi would often share the dreams he had for their future and promised that one day, the two of them would live in abundance in a beautiful mansion. Rose, his wife, didn't really care about wealth at all. She just wanted Ponzi for who he was. Anyways, he went to several of his friends and promised to double their investment in 90 days with his smart postal coupon system. When friends had invested, he immediately went out to strangers and had them convinced by showing how other people had already invested their money with him. Now, with the newly obtained money coming in, he could promptly pay off the promised interest to his friends already within a month. They became his first happy customers, and the word on the street started spreading like wildfire. One minor problem was that he still didn't have a proper plan for how he would execute the actual buying and reselling of coupons, but he was certain that he could figure out the specifics later on. Right now, he just needed to focus on getting more customers. When pitching to new customers, Ponzi would claim he had agents all over Europe buying and transporting coupons, and if someone asked for additional details about his setup, he would in an elegant manner refuse to say anything, as potential competitors could take advantage of any information. Additionally, as the sleek salesman he was, he took the opportunity to offer the doubters an extraordinary deal on their first investment. Soon after, Ponzi, in the real manner of an old-time flim-flam artist, was roaming the cobbled streets, weaving elaborate tales and selling moonshine dreams to the starry-eyed townsfolk. Everyone could get rich with Ponzi. People loved it and came flocking to the groundbreaking investment opportunity like it was water in a desert. And oh boy, did they drink. Ponzi raked in millions of dollars from investors in the matter of no time, and that was when he had another 200 IQ realization. See, instead of actually going all the way to Europe, being bothered using millions of dollars to suck every country dry of international reply coupons, to then transport them all the way back and finally resell the coupons on the American market, he could make way more money, way faster, way more convenient, just by spending his time onboarding more investors. The business, which he gave the name Securities Exchange Company, in short SEC, quickly became established and opened its first offices in Boston. Looking at things retrospectively, it seems like Ponzi must have been aware of his company's fishy activities and potential end result, because on the company documents, Ponzi had registered 3 owners, one being his old landlord, Luigi, way back from his time in Italy, who was surely dead at the time. The other was his brother-in-law, Bianchi, who knew nothing about the company. Kind-hearted as Ponzi was, he had registered his brother-in-law and deceased landlord as primary owners, while Ponzi himself held a less responsible position. Setting up a legitimate-looking company with a prominent office was a smart move for Ponzi's scheme. It gave his little show a professional and trustworthy appearance, and almost instantly, the firm had tens of thousands of dedicated investors throwing money at the new financial wizard on the block. To keep up with demand, multiple offices across the US opened their doors to the swarms of people eager to send their net worths to the moon. Every day, millions of dollars would be invested. Most people thought they made a genius long-term play by not taking profits but instead reinvesting their accumulated interest. Some investors were putting everything they owned on the line: mortgages, life savings, you name it. Even the renowned business folk who had previously laughed at Ponzi's ideas were now jumping on board. A reported 75% of Boston's police force had invested money in the scheme. The scheme had gotten absolutely huge. At this point, the initial strategy of reselling postal coupons was literally impossible. It would be a logistical nightmare, as he would have to fill Titanic-sized ships with coupons just to transport them to the US. And even if he managed to organize the transportation, there were nowhere near enough coupons made in the world to sustain a business his size. But who would care about these small details anyways? At this point, Ponzi was living the dream in the limelight. The Oracle himself was making around $250,000 daily from investment fees alone. Finally, the dreams that had seemed so unattainable when he was sleeping on that filthy kitchen floor back in Boston were materializing. What he had hungered for his whole life was now coming to him in abundance. The Ponzi family back home were bursting with pride. He purchased first-class tickets to bring his mother to the US. As promised, he bought his wife a beautiful 12-room mansion in Lexington and cruised around town in a custom-built limousine, always dripped out, mostly in expensive tailored suits, with diamond pins and a gold-handled cane to follow. He went on a shopping spree and bought multiple companies. You can take an Italian out of Italy, but you can't take Italy out of an Italian. So, he bought a macaroni company plus a wine company. He also made some other acquisitions to get back at people who had mocked him when he was broke. He bought up a bank whose director had previously rejected a loan application, and a brokerage firm with the sole intention of firing his former bosses. Bear in mind, upon starting the company, Ponzi achieved all of this in just 8 months, but things would begin taking a turn. One day, more specifically Friday the 24th of July, 1920, the Boston Post, which was the city's biggest newspaper at the time, did an interview with Ponzi going over his journey from rags to riches, where he got the chance to pitch his investment opportunity to all its readers. Monday morning the following week, when Ponzi arrived at work, the line outside was longer than he'd ever seen before. People came flocking from all over the state because they had read the article about him. In just that one day alone, Ponzi collected over $3 million, which is equivalent to over $34 million in today's money. This incredible record came with quite a few disadvantages, such as becoming a nationwide front-page sensation, thus sparking the interest of various skeptics who were certain the investment scheme was too good to be true. And, as you had probably imagined, nothing lasts forever, not even for a well-groomed man with a golden cane. When the US Post Office revealed in an official report that Ponzi had never cashed in a single reply coupon, Ponzi's great downfall was in full effect. And when it rains, it pours. As a result, a government audit was immediately initiated, and it concluded that he was, in fact, $7 million in debt. Ponzi was arrested on 86 federal charges of mail fraud. His downfall collapsed 6 banks and caused a financial ruin of tens of thousands of his clients. In total, investors lost equivalent to $207 million in today's money. A house of cards had fallen. All in all, Ponzi served a total of around 9 years behind bars in the US before eventually being deported to Italy. As a last resort before his deportation, he ran off to Jacksonville, Florida, and tried to set up another scam taking advantage of some real estate boom in Florida. He tried to conceal his identity by shaving his head and mustache, but the new incognito look instantly flopped, and he was captured and arrested again. Upon deportation, his wife divorced him. Ponzi never actually obtained an American citizenship. After one hell of a ride in the US, he was back to square one in Italy. Eventually, he made his way to Brazil to work as a teacher to make ends meet. He died on January 18, 1949 in a charity hospital in Rio de Janeiro with a humble $75 to his name, which was all used to cover his burial. Charles Ponzi's call in life was to bring legacy back to the family name, and he certainly did. It was perhaps not how his mother had envisioned it. It wasn't picture perfect, but a legacy the Ponzi's got.